back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in Studio West. Former United States Senator Jim Talent is chairman of the Leadership Council at the Reagan Institute. He joins me now. Senator, good Thursday to you. How you doing?
Doing fine, Hugh. How are you?
I'm good. I want to test my four-sided box through which every national security pundit must pass before I listen to him. Four assumptions I've got. I want to see if you share them. One, Putin is evil, but Russia cannot be defeated. Number two, Hamas is evil and must be defeated. Number three, Iran is evil and could be defeated. Number four, China is our deadliest threat, cannot be defeated, but can be deterred, and that has to be our priority. What do you say?
Yeah, yes, without qualification to 2, 3, and 4. Could Russia be defeated? There are certain areas where Russia is pretty sophisticated in its technology and its abilities, although we're beginning to call that into question. I mean, their anti-aircraft defense systems did not protect Iran, from Israel's surgical strikes. But let's put it this way. We can't defeat Russia without engaging in an effort we don't want to engage in, but they certainly can be deterred and contained.
Yes. Now, my corollary number one to those four principles is that it's Europe's primary job to contain Putin. We have to go contain China, and Europe has to step up like Poland has, like others have, like Ukraine has. They have to deter Putin. Is that fair?
It's certainly fair. It's a position that every American president's had for the last 20 years, that they're not doing enough for their own defense. But again, I would not treat this like it's some enormous exercise. I mean, in the studies I saw, and it was a few years ago, I'll agree, 5 or 6 brigades, including several hundred tanks, in a base in Eastern Europe with the supporting infrastructure and with the air power, so you're talking 25 to 30,000 men, would deter Putin from any kind of a direct attack in the Balkans or the other places where he's threatened it. So could the Europeans do that? Sure. And they would need our leadership, our logistics, probably an American commander, and we would need to train in terms of interoperability and jointness and all the rest of it. But yeah, that could be done, and they ought to do it. And it would be better for them to do it. And they're bragging all the time about how they want to do it. They just don't do it.
They just don't. Finland does it. Sweden does it. Poland does it. They're the big three. And England and France are nuclear powers, so they have a little pop that other people don't have. Germany's really the weak sister here. And I don't know how I read a long piece by Michael Lind today about their lost decade of economic activity. Merkel turns out to have been a disaster.
Absolute disaster in this area as well as others, because it was her policy really not to consider Russia a potential aggressor, but rather to sort of play Russia off against us. I mean, it was a disastrous policy. Look, one of the reasons President Trump is so frustrated, and what he said about Zelensky was intemperate and, let's face it, unfair. But one of the reasons the president's so frustrated is because this war never should have happened and wouldn't have happened if he'd remained president, or if other Western leaders hadn't spent the previous 10 years appeasing Vladimir Putin. Yeah. And so I think the president feels like that Zelensky really ought to give some tactical running room to the one Western leader who's been effective in the last decade. So
I agree.
I don't blame the president for his frustration at all. Now, yes, he said some things he shouldn't have said and that weren't true. But you notice Zelensky met with Kellogg and issued a very nice statement. This has got a long way to go. And I'm still very hopeful we'll get an honorable peace in Eastern Europe.
So am I. And now I come to the thing that has really bothered me over the last 48 hours. A couple of my longtime acquaintances who have very big problems with Donald Trump have jumped on his comments as though that's the only thing that happened in the last 4 weeks. And I'm beginning to think there's a portion of the American public, especially among pundits, who would rather see Donald Trump fail in an effort to bring about a stable ceasefire than to see Ukraine survive.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably true. I like to think it's not true of most of them, But I mean, there is this Trump derangement syndrome is for real. And look, again, what the president said was intemperate and in many respects unfair. And my guess is, the good of Donald, he's a master of social media. And one of the reasons he is because he's spontaneous and authentic. And once in a while, he says some things which, while he'd never admit it, my guess is probably an hour after he said them, he wished he'd phrased it a different way.
And once in a while, he switches tracks in the middle of a sentence. So he was talking about Zelensky, then he was talking about Biden when he said Biden did this awful stuff and said these, I'm sure he was talking about minor incursion, which he's brought up. But when he switches tracks, if you don't know how to speak Trump, you get off the wrong track.
Right. I don't think he meant, by the way, that Ukraine or Zelensky started the war.
Right.
I think what he meant was, and if you listen to his comments as a whole, what he meant was the war occurred because of the failures and the fecklessness of Western leaders in Europe. And I think that's absolutely correct. And then I think he also believes that Zelensky should have made a major effort for a negotiated solution after the first year of the war, when the battlefield situation basically favored Ukraine. And I wrote the same thing 20 months ago.
And the frustrating part is the Biden team was so weak. What he might have been, the Kursk salient might have happened a long time ago. The rapid year 2 advance might have gone farther and longer. And they had ATACMS they couldn't use and tanks that hadn't been delivered and F-16 or A6s that hadn't been sent. I mean, the Biden administration's record on this is horrific.
Yes, it was at best lethargic without any ingenuity to it. And that would have been the time, I think, in the late spring, the summer of 2023, to try and get the kind of deal that Trump is now trying to get out of Putin. And I hope he still will be able to get out of him. But the battlefield situation's changed since then. It's much less favorable now for Ukraine. It's still basically stalemated, but Ukraine is in danger, much greater danger of collapsing than Russia is. Look, this from the standpoint of the United States, Russia has lost this war. You mentioned Finland and Sweden. Their entrance into NATO with their military capabilities is a major strategic defeat for Russia. So yes, if we can get out of this war with stability, with a commitment on the part of the Ukraine of the Europeans to help build Ukraine, and with the kind of economic relationship between the United States and Ukraine, so we have a stake in their security, which is why Trump wants the rare earths. See, this is another thing. I'm starting to rant now, but Zelensky should not have turned him down flat. It's very much in Ukraine's interest to become a major supplier to the United States of critical minerals like rare earths.
Yeah,
and why shouldn't he give us a break on the price? I mean, if he wants us to be an ally, he's got to create a relationship where we get something out of it. Ukraine is not our ally, They're not a member of NATO. We don't have an obligation to defend them.
Jim, can you stay for another segment? Because I want to follow up on that. It's not been discussed anywhere. And it's an oversight of everyone because it's been pitched like we were trying to blackmail Zelensky instead of we were trying to enter into a partnership that would make more sense to the average American citizen. I'm back with Senator Jim Talent. So, Senator, we began talking about this rare earth mineral agreement. I don't know what's in it. I think Scott Bessent is a very smart guy from what I've seen. I don't think we're trying to gouge profits out of Ukraine. I think we're trying to establish a partnership that would be mutually beneficial and would explain to America why we have an interest in Ukraine. Your assessment.
Sure. That's how Zelensky should have seen it, in my view. Now, is the Trump administration capable of driving a hard bargain when they have somebody over the barrel? Well, sure. But this is the burden of leadership. I mean, you get on the phone with the president, or you talk with Bessent, and you negotiate a deal that's acceptable. And it's not going to be the only thing in the deal. I mean, Ukraine is going to get a lot of direct aid, and some of that might come from the United States, no matter what Trump says. I mean, if he needs to get a deal, if he's got to throw in some American money and have it not all come in from the Europeans, he'll do it. So, I mean, Zelensky, in my opinion, just needs to be solid about this. And he also needs to remember that he made a pretty serious mistake in his little sort of mini love affair with the Biden administration and the Harris campaign last year. I mean, that was an unwise thing for him to do under those circumstances. So he's got, the president's annoyed with him. That's no reason for him
I
to get
also hope General Kellogg gave him a tutorial. I told my law students this week, how do you treat your clients? Because sometimes you have to put up with a lot from your clients if you're a practicing lawyer. Sometimes you have to fire them. But Zelensky's not in a position to fire Donald Trump. He just can't.
No, and he's very dependent on him. So, and again, what I said before, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. We are not bound by treaty to defend them. And so therefore, he should want us to be bound by interest. Now, it was very much in our interest to degrade the power of the Russian state, which is the reason I believe it was the right thing to support Ukraine in the first place. But that's happened. You mentioned before in a segment that, Russia's casualties are probably killed and wounded in the 700,000 to 800,000 range.
Yeah.
They've taken an enormous hit. NATO has been strengthened by the admission of Finland and Sweden. Russia's come off strategically the loser, so our interests have been vindicated. And so,
remember the guy before your time in the Senate who said declare victory and go home about Vietnam? Russia's in a Vietnam. I think they want to declare victory and go home, and we shouldn't make it hard for them to do that.
Right, I agree. Now, look, if I could talk to Marco Rubio directly, I would ask him some questions about some of the things the president said. For example, the president's talked so much about the desire for peace, which I'm saying to myself, that's unusual for Trump because he's emphasizing how much he wants an agreement, which normally weakens your negotiation position. But I'll tell you, and I say this on the pod all the time, I am no longer underestimating Trump or his negotiating ability, and I'm going to assume he knows what he's doing until it's proven otherwise.
Wise words for everyone. Senator Jim Talent, always a pleasure. Thank you, Senator. Talk to you again soon.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.